We are awaiting the March 25th Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting to resume after their closed session at 6:30. We're awaiting the regular open meeting session starting at 7:30. And there's about 12 participants right now, which is different from the last couple of board meetings where they've had over 100. So maybe more will get on. I believe one of the agenda items this evening is going to be on charter oversight. That is something they missed, they ran out of time actually to discuss at the workshop they had a few weeks ago when they discussed charter management. And so that was one of the items they said they were going to discuss at a later time. And it looks like on tonight's agenda, that is one of the agenda items.
Is everybody in? You ready? Okay, welcome back everyone. It's 7:30. We're going to reconvene the regular board meeting of 3/25/21 at 7:30 p.m. Mike, could you lead us in the flag salute?
Sure. Everybody, right hand over your heart, caps off, face the flag, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight I'll read the civility statement. Communicate clearly and concisely with respect for time of others. Listen objectively, carefully considering the opinions of others. Understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors. Understand and respect district policies and procedures. Maintain a respect for the rich history of the district and the effort others have served in the past. Thank you so much. Okay, 5A, public comments. Please submit a request to speak to the board trustees for any agendized or non-agendized items to the superintendent prior to the meeting. No more than 3 minutes are allotted for any one speaker and no more than 20 for the same subject. So this portion of the agenda is for comments, recognitions, and reports to the board and is not intended to be a question answer period. Mr. King, do we have anyone that would like to address the board this evening?
We don't have any.
Thank you. Is there anyone out there that would like to address the board?
President Jensen,
Yeah.
could we consider a change to the agenda, the order of the agenda? And that being, I would move that we move the ASMO presentation up to the front end as close as we can get it. So people that are interested in music in the school can see that without being belabored with our business till late in the evening. And someone second that?
Chad Wadsworth seconds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Paulsgraf. Yes, we'll move it up to comments. Right?
Superintendent
Yeah,
comments.
superintendent comments.
We can put it there, we can put on the reports.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, we'll just put it in the reports.
So I think the ASMO people, if you're out there, you're going to be up fairly soon.
Okay, so that's
So-
right now.
With that, we'll say, Mr. King, do you have any recognitions or reports?
We do. We would like to, if you are out there and you are on the ASMO board, please be on standby as I'd like to introduce you. And when I say their names, Alex, when I say their names, you can just have them, at least so you can see who they are if they'd like to. If you want to get to... Okay, so just a reminder, the Acton School Music Organization program has been a long-standing program. I believe one of the originators of it was Sandy Madsen, and I know that the area had an interest in sustaining musical arts programs. And so we're very fortunate that it's a self-funded, so to speak. It does not impact our general fund in terms of the teacher piece of it. And we did agree some years ago to fund the instructional aid or the assistant piece of the program, and we continue to do that. As somebody who is a musician and learned how to play trumpet through the public school system, and starting in 4th grade all the way through college, I appreciate the fact that this program exists for our students. So I'd like to introduce the board of ASMA, as well as our instructional staff, our music staff. And then following that, I'm going to ask Ms. Fallgater to make a few comments if she'd like. So our president of ASMA is Meredith Fallgater.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Fallgater. Thanks for being.
Thank you.
Of course, I'll turn it over to you in just a couple minutes. The vice president, who I believe is not here tonight, is Kelly Baker. And then the secretary, if I'm saying his name incorrectly, I apologize ahead of time, but Heather Miliati Palet. And then Paulette Mouche is the bookkeeper. And Emma Benatar is our asthma music teacher. And Rob Rudolph is our asthma music assistant. So is Heather Miliati Palet out there?
Yes, I am here, and you said it perfectly.
Well, I'm glad I did, because I would not want to mess that up, so thank you. And then Paulette Mouche. I don't think so, but we do appreciate the fact that you're making sure that the accounting is clear and accurate. And then is our music teacher out here, our asthma teacher, Emma Benatar. There she is. She has a hand up. You see that? Far left. Emma. There you go. Okay, Emma, he's
Hi.
gonna...
Hello.
Hi, thank you for being here this evening, and I'm hearing wonderful things about you. So really appreciate the fact that you are an asthma teacher and helping our young people with music.
I'm happy to be here.
And you have a wonderful assistant who the board is familiar with, Mr. Rob Rudolph.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here too.
Good evening, Mr. Rudolph, and I can't wait for the day when we have some normalcy to be back with your crew to provide some background music in between at intermission and for our students. So great to see everybody and have you here tonight. Distance learning with our music program began in January. The hybrid in-person instruction recently began as well. And Ms. Fallgater, I'm going to turn it over to you to share a couple of thoughts if you like. Hers is Meredith.
Okay.
Okay.
Were you directing that question?
Hi, well, thank you guys all so much for allowing us to have a little presentation at the board meeting. We are extremely proud of the ASMO program, all of the volunteers that have helped make it possible, our two teachers, Rob Rudolph and Emma Benatar, and the support of the principal of Meadowlark, who has been completely invaluable in making this program happen. Also, the entire staff of Meadowlark that's allowed us to experiment with distance learning and hybrid learning, and Emma's enthusiasm with just making the program work, making the kids love music, participating in hands-on activities. I know that it's a highlight of my son's week and a highlight of a lot of kids' weeks to be able to come into a class, see their friends, participate with singing, learning about music history, the fundamentals. And I truly could not be any happier with how well it has been going with Mr. Rudolph and Ms. Benatar. It's the program is really surviving, despite the fact that the kids haven't been in school, and the willingness of these two people to step in and really make the program happen. We also rely completely on donations. So there is links on the Meadowlark page and on the school district page if anyone wants to donate. We haven't had any concerts, and that's one of the biggest fundraisers we have. But we have a solid budget to get through this year and into next year, and hopefully we can get concerts going, we can get in-person music instruction in more classrooms. And we're just so thrilled with the support the district's given us, the school has given us, the community has given us. And it's really exciting that the program is still thriving despite all the hurdles that we've gone through this year, and to see it still in the schools is magnificent. So thank you very much for letting us present. Thank you to all the board members who have stood by and, just made it happen, despite the fact that most of us haven't seen each other in a year, and just the willingness of everyone to work with us and make the music happen for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty self-apparent, but at the end of the day, if you can support ASMO, please do that. $1 or $1 million, whatever you can do to support ASMO. There's a concert coming. It'll be here sooner than you know, and let's make sure that they're supported now. And I would appreciate anyone who can do that. Thank you.
Well, this is Mike Fox. Thank you to the parents and volunteers that drive the organization, and of course for the teachers who are providing the instruction. My 3 kids all benefited from ASMO music instruction. My wife 15 years ago was the treasurer and doing what Ms. Boucher is doing now, and so it's a pleasure to see an organization last that long and make such an impact for many kids. Thanks very much for what you do.
Chad Wadsworth here. I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers and everybody that's involved with ASMO. It's a great organization. It's an awesome opportunity for our students, and it's much appreciated that you guys put as much time and effort into it that you do. Thank you very much.
Hi, Tim Jorgensen here. I'm just excited that we're grounded. We've got some great volunteers, get our students back engaged with music. Because I recall talking with my brothers and sister that when we were at Saugus Elementary, music was a huge part of our development and our growth. We used to make annual trips to the LA Philharmonic, and we would sit way up by the ceiling, and I was always amazed at the sound that would come up from that stage and how beautiful it was. And it stuck with me all these years, and I look forward to you having that same impact on our students. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Kelly Jensen here. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. I am a big proponent of the arts. I think it's so important to our students. And I've always been amazed at how much ASMO does for our community and for our students. One of my favorite things to do is go to those concerts. So I'm happy that you guys are still plugging along and doing the best that you can. We appreciate all your service, and we can't wait to see our students performing again. So thank you so much. Any other?
That's it for reports. I have 6.
Great. So now we have Ada. Is Melissa Trisell unmuted?
She sent an email. She's should have her.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Trisell. Thanks for all you do. Okay, CSEA representative. Do we have Mr. Ortiz?
He doesn't have anything.
We don't have anything? Okay, so student representative, do we have Camp Fairbanks in the house?
He's not.
Okay. Mr. King, the Gold Standard report.
All right. Okay, so let me start with an update on our COVID safety report. The latest information which we just received this morning in our weekly meeting with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health stated it's very likely that in early April we'll move into the orange tier. What does that mean for education? It means very little. So when you go from red to orange, it's certainly significant in terms of health, and it means that the numbers are going in the right direction. But in terms of changes for us in the classroom instruction, really there's none. The only change that may be affected is regarding youth sports. And they weren't able to share any specifics because they're waiting for clarification from the state. And so this is an ongoing dialogue between the county levels and the state to obtain clarification on guidelines, particularly with youth sports. In terms of graduations, we did get some information this morning regarding that piece, which I think is very important for the board to know. Outdoor events will be permitted. We're looking at 25% capacity of the school site, I believe. They didn't say 25% capacity of the site or of the establishment. In other words, if it's a venue, is it 25% of the capacity of that venue, or is it 25% of the student demographic? I believe it's the student population. Once you get to the orange tier, that changes to 33%. So that would easily cover our senior class if we move to the orange tier, because you're not only talking about the students in the senior class, but we're looking at plans that would allow them to bring their immediate household family members to the graduation, sit with them on the field. For clarity and for ease of the graduation, we would not have anybody in the stands, but only on the field, 6 foot distancing between the student, their family and student could be together, but then 6 feet separating that student family cohort, so to speak. For larger high schools, this doesn't apply to us. There could be multiple graduations. On the other hand, if it didn't go beyond that 25% capacity, we might need to consider 2 graduations, depending on how many family members they have. So I think we need to wait for further clarification from the state, just as, again, the county is waiting for further clarification from the state as well. All the normal distancing, mask wearing protocols and so on would still be in place. So I want to talk a little bit about distancing. There's been a lot of reports in the news that the CDC has changed the protocol and the guidelines from 6 feet now to 3 feet. And so that only applies in terms of education to classroom instruction as opposed to childcare. So if you're in a classroom where instruction is being delivered, then they are now saying it's safe to have a 3 foot distancing as your criteria. There's 3 reasons that I want to make publicly known that most of us, most districts are not going to change the plans that are already in place for reopening their school sites. For one thing is that a month ago, the criteria was 4 feet with plexiglass barriers. Now they're saying it's safe without barriers and even down to 3 feet. So if we keep changing our MOUs and our protocols every time the state or county makes a change, we're not going to be able to instruct our students because it's going to be confusing. And for a consistent program, for a coherent program for our families and students, we need to make a decision and stick with that because there's not a whole lot of learning time left of the school year. That's one piece. The other one is it's challenging when you go to move the kids outside when it's still a 6 foot distancing criteria. So if you're inside the classroom, you could have 3 feet, but then you go to outside and you're going to have your whole student body there trying to get fed and to socialize and then have to maintain that 6 foot of distancing would be very difficult to do. The other piece is that there's going to be families, we know from our surveys and from our current schools that are reopened, that still want to choose the virtual option regardless. So we'd be putting our teachers in an unfair position, asking them to simultaneously teach in-person instruction and virtual, and maintain the other things that are in the LEUs, like office hours, prep time, and so forth. So for all those reasons, we are going to maintain what we have, the plans in place that we have, and adhere to that. One thing that I did want to point out is, in addition to college entrance exams that are allowable under the guidelines, AP testing is also allowed. So that's important to note. There is a webinar we heard about this morning for tomorrow for parents that I'll work with Yolanda. We'll make that publicly known so that if anybody wants to access that, it's specifically for parents and guardians, and that's been put out by the Department of Public Health. Okay, so I'm going to move on from that to facilities report. So with regard to our facilities in the Acton campus, there's nothing new to report. Meadowlark, we completed replacing the fire sprinklers and the annual inspection of our water backflow system. Same thing at Vasquez High School, nothing to report on High Desert. We did do a site walk on Aadusd campus Monday. I want to thank Mr. Jorgensen. He joined us for that. And I really appreciate Ernesto Mora and the work he's done at all of our sites, including the Aadusd campus, to ensure that compliant and safe and clean on our campus. So thank you, Mr. Mora. Okay, and then what I'd like to discuss now is a little bit more on graduations and honoring our seniors. So just a couple different things here. One thing is, I know that Mr. Brockway has recently formed two committees, one for the senior class of 2020 and one for the senior class of 2021. So I appreciate that effort on his part to work with staff and parents to ensure that we're doing all we can to recognize and, as I've said many times, to make this year as memorable as we can for our seniors as they exit and go on to do amazing things, go to college or go to tech schools or military and so on. We want to celebrate. I'm pleased to announce that we're going to be able to continue the Superintendent Steggold Scholarship Program. So I was able to procure 2 donations by outside organizations that have continued to support the district in this regard. One is being approved tonight, listed on the consent agenda for $2,000. Again, we'll have 5 recipients of the Steggold Senior Scholarship Program. The essays and the applications will be read by outsiders. So it will not be district employees, and it will not be, parents or grandparents of students that attend our schools. So we'll have outside readers evaluate those just like we did last year. The scholarship awards are going to be a little bit lower than they were last year. I think we did $500 for each of the 5 recipients. This year it will probably be $300 for each of our recipients. The other thing that I wanted to note is that we are looking at the purchase of 2 large banners. Remember the one that was last year that was on the exterior of the building, recognizing our seniors? It did get desecrated, unfortunately, so we're going to get another one and have that permanently placed in the gymnasium. And we'll do the same for the senior class of 2021. We'll also be purchasing 2 plaques with all of the students' names on each plaque. And we'll have a note on there honoring that during this pandemic, this class persevered and was able to graduate, and it will be below a horseshoe that's going to be mounted above those 2 plaques just to honor those students, and perhaps it's something that they can take their picture by or tap the horseshoe on their way out, that sort of thing. So we want to just take any opportunity we can to recognize our seniors. Moving on, the Golden Apple Award, which is sponsored by the local charter school administrators. There was a decision made to not put out the Golden Apple Award this year that it was felt that there wasn't ample opportunities for volunteers to be on campus and to really show the fruits of their labor for what they do in schools in full session. So what they're going to do is allow for 2 recipients to be awarded next school year. So if you opted to, you still want to recognize somebody this year, they'll just go on next year's recipient list. And that way you have the options of doing that either 1 for each school year or 2 for next year. It's up to each individual school district. And then lastly, we do have a very special video for you this evening. I want to read, even though it is posted up there, Gold Standard 3.0, that our stakeholders play a vital role in the educational process. We value their opinion and feedback and seek to involve them in decisions which impact the education of our students. We establish a culture that encourages positive relationships among students, staff, and parents, as well as educational, business, and community partners. And with that, we'd like to show you this video. Very proud of our students here, so please enjoy.
It was an amazing school to go to because the small community makes it feel like a home, and you end up knowing everyone and you create these personal connections with your teachers. I played soccer every year I could at Vasquez. Unfortunately, this last one got messed up, but the bus rides and all of the games made for amazing memories.
And my name is Rachel Harder, and I have been playing volleyball since I was 9. I'm currently the varsity captain. For my future, I'm going to school to be an RN. I'm going to be attending Antelope Valley College next fall.
I'm Justin. Apparently I look like a Viking. Mr. Sparks thinks my beard's cool. High school's interesting.
I'm Camila Galvez. This will be my 3rd year on the cross country and swim teams, and my 2nd year as captain on each team. I was in the school's performing arts group at the Herd for 2 years, and after high school I plan to go into pediatric nursing.
My name is Luke Ochoa. I've been playing baseball for the past 4 years and the captain as well as the last 2 years. And after high school I plan to attend to get an opportunity to play baseball for any college. It's always been a dream of mine.
My name is Kyle Johnson. I'm a senior at Vasquez. I've played baseball for the past 4 years and I've been captain for the last 2 years. I plan on going to a 4-year after high school, and I plan on studying something in criminal justice.
I'm Carmen Martinez, and I participated in cheer and softball throughout my high school. My most memorable year was definitely my freshman year and winning league champs with the softball team. After high school, I plan on going to college and studying criminal justice.
I'm Alex Josephson, and I was new to Vasquez for my junior year, but it wasn't hard to find new friends, and I think that's one of the great things about this school.
I'm Peyton Keys, and throughout high school I played volleyball, basketball, and rodeo, and this year I was fortunate enough to be able to continue my rodeo season without it being affected by COVID. And after high school I plan on going to a junior college for 1 to 2 years and then moving out of state.
Chris Poppy. I run in cross country and track, and outside of school I love to go skiing on the weekends and stuff. After school I plan to go on to college to study chemical engineering, and really at Vasquez has been a great experience for me. I've made a lot of memories, really with friends, but it's like, on campus, at lunch, at sports, everything.
My name is Chloe Main. I participate in 2 sports, swim and volleyball. Outside of high school, I like to travel, and after high school, I plan to major in business finance. My favorite memories consist of hanging out with my friends.
My name is Shai Yosef, and I'm a senior at Vasquez High School. And this year I'm a captain on the men's soccer team, and I played soccer for the previous 3 years, and I'm glad to say that we made it to quarterfinals all of those 3 years.
Kemp Fairbanks. I've done cross country for 4 years and track for 3. Currently ASB president. After high school, I plan on attending Service Academy of the United States Military.
Angelissa Aguilar. My favorite thing was definitely freshman year because of the school dances, the football games, the rallies. And I think like the juniors and the seniors did a really good job at making that like fun for us and wanting to go back and wanting more. Nothing could ever like top that year for me.
My name is Annabelle Becker. I played tennis, basketball, and I swam for 4 years, or I would have swam for 4 years. And some of my favorite memories at Vasquez are lunches with my friends and the library and just hanging out, as well as bus rides home from away games because we got to stop sometimes, and it was just really fun. We would blast music. So
Cadillac, I cheered for the first 2 years of high school. Couldn't this year.
My name is Amy Johnson. I've played 4 sports at Vasquez. I'm going to college out of state, and I'm super excited. I don't know what I want to do yet, but I'm glad to start a new chapter in my life. And my favorite memory by far is going to semifinals with our soccer team my sophomore year.
Hi, I'm Kennedy, and what I love most about Vasquez was being a leader in choir and dance and the friends I got to make along the way. And after I graduate, I plan on majoring in nursing and biology.
Koa Harris. I've played football for 12 years. I played baseball and swam. I also like golfing on my off time and going to the beach.
My name is Isaiah Salcedo. I'm a senior, and I played on the boys basketball team in the past. After high school, I plan on going to college and expanding my education to work towards my career. My favorite moment in high school was probably hanging out with my friends.
I'm Jason Tante, and I'm on class of 2021. And something that I enjoyed about Vasquez is that all the teachers and staff are willing to help you.
My name is Alexis. I am part of the class of 2021, and I think my favorite thing from Vasquez is being part of the baseball community because my brothers play baseball, and I think it's an overall good experience.
I'm Esperanza Duran, and I'm a part of the class of 2021. I would say my accomplishments in high school are just finding my real friends. The favorite thing about Vasquez is how all the staff and teachers are so supportive and they help.
My name is Daniel Wadsworth. I'm the senior of class of 2021. Can say one of my favorite things about Vasquez High School is that it's a small town community. There's a lot of good kids there, and everyone's just very supportive, and we all get along.
Rose, class of 2021, and my favorite thing about Vasquez is how accepting it is.
Boys Rodriguez, I'm an upperclassman, class 2021 senior.
Tyler Goldner, I'm senior for class of 2021 at Vasquez. And one of my favorite moments going to school here was probably playing football almost my entire career.
Nicholas Bay. I apologize, I lost my internet connection, and hopefully it'll resume here and we can get back onto the meeting.
Restrictions that they have to hold themselves to, regardless of any nefarious order somebody would give them to make it look like this or that. That is one safeguard that you would find in the financial stream of this district. So you've got somebody saying, no, this is that. We don't have one person that sits here and goes over 12 different, the equivalents of this district's budget like LACO does. LACO has a floor of people for all of the districts that they look, or whatever, I don't even know. Next thing to look at is similarly legal services. I have asked that every charter thing comes through here that somebody that has legal authority and is bound to professional standards somewhere else outside of this district tells us whether or not what's being proposed is legal. So when you start digging into the contract, I'll have you know that for the past several years, every contract that is signed is put up, read what it is, who it is, and what the maximum dollar amount of the contract is. That is all in the minutes you can find it. So nothing nefarious there. I also want to put something to bed about this negotiation, all these negotiations that have to take place. You know, when I go to buy a house or a car, I like to look at what it's going to cost. I like to look at my budget. I like to look and see if I can actually afford this. And similarly, when I go to work and I sign up for a job and I agree that I'm going to do this job for X month, I like to know that I can do this while doing the job. And the supports are there for me.
It would appear that my internet is really having issues this evening, so I'm going to have to stop again and see if we can get on. I apologize for the poor internet this evening. You know, that's what happens when you live in a small town and there's no infrastructure, proper infrastructure, because who knew way back when that we'd be distance learning and working from home, and you have pretty much 95% or more of the town at home using internet. So it's unfortunate. Hopefully, now that COVID is on its way out, hopefully, and things are loosening up and starting to open up in small cohorts and such, maybe the district will allow media, the newspapers, the 2 or 3 of us that cover the meetings, to attend these meetings in person. They're meeting in person. There's less than 10 of them there, I believe. Maybe they'll allow us to sit in the back and cover the meetings in person so that we can properly report. Because honestly, after a year of this, it's getting a little difficult to be able to really report on everything when you are having internet issues. So let's see if that's a possibility, but we'll see if that'll even be allowed. The other possibility is that if the district IT department, if they are recording these meetings, then maybe they have them up on their website somewhere and we can view these meetings for the public. That would be something to ask and find out about, if they are recording the meetings on their end, and if so, where can we find them? So that would be something that I'll have to look into and ask, because there are many of us that have internet issues and would like to be able to view the whole meeting.
School district. And 100% of my job duties are in providing the oversight for our charters. And what I'd like to do is give a little bit of background of the purpose of authorizers and what our roles are. Charter schools are considered autonomous public schools, and they are approved and they're overseen by local educational agencies. That can be a school district like Acton, it can be County Office of Education. And under the terms of the Charter Schools Act, we and our staff, we're referred to as charter school authorizers. And so what we are responsible for is deciding whether to approve and later to whether we are going to renew charters based on the set of terms of each school's operation. So essentially, what we are responsible for are for monitoring the charter school performance during the time that we are authorizing that charter. So sort of like Mr. Falsgraf had mentioned, we're regulators for these schools in making sure that they are complying with what their charter petition essentially said. So we have a slide, if we can start that. You're ready to go. We can see your screen. If we can go to the next slide, slide 2. So essentially, there is a minimum of oversight duties that are required by Ed Code. Essentially identifying at least one staff member as a contact person. That person is myself, being that I am in charge of making sure that all areas of oversight are brought together. There is a visit that is done annually to all of the charters, whether they are virtual or whether they are seat-based or hybrids. We ensure that the charter school complies with all of the reports that are required by charter school laws, which can include testing data, SARC reports, teacher credentialing information, facility reports, all of these things. Number 4, monitor the fiscal condition of each charter school under its authority. As mentioned earlier in the board meeting, one of the things that our assistant superintendent and some of business services and our consultants do is to assist with the fiscal monitoring of our charter schools to ensure that they are fiscally sound. Number 5 is providing timely notification to the CDE of charters, renewals, revocations, and ceases of operation. So essentially, once we have either approved, denied, or revoked a charter, one of the requirements is to make sure that at the end of the school year, that the CDE receives information regarding that charter's operations and making sure that all information has been updated. We have the next slide, please. Thank you. So essentially, when we do the site visits, which are a requirement of an annual site visit, what is sent to the charter schools is a self-assessment. That self-assessment is part of a FCMAT, which is the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistant Team. They have an annual checklist that allows us to gather the information that is legally required and information that we would want to obtain in order to ensure that they're complying with their charter petition. What we do is we send that assessment out so that once we are at the site visit, we are able to expand on the questions that are asked. Every year, there's an update with our document clearinghouse, which is Epicenter, where charters upload information and update information on their charters operations. Yet that is something that needs to be reviewed in person to clarify that all of the information that they've provided to us is appropriate. When we go to the classroom, whether it's virtual or whether it's a seat-based component, it is still the same type of observation. If it's a virtual charter that we are going to observe, we are meeting with the administrators. It may be that we meet at the district office. It might be we meet at their one of their sites. It could be meeting their offices if they're virtual. We meet with the staff. We will ask for student samples. We collect documents. We make sure that SPED files are complete. We make sure that all of the items for operations and for student work is completed. If the charter is seat-based, the additional observations that we make have to do with being able to view students, to be able to look at the facilities, much like our facilities manager works now to make sure that our facilities are clean, that they are in proper condition for students. Same thing we would do checking on a seat-based charter. We make sure that they're in the location in which they have listed in their petition. We provide them with feedback of information about concerns. We check files. There's always an ongoing communication with the charters. Daily, there's phone calls, whether it is from parents, whether it is from students who are concerned about records, it can be staff. The correspondence with charters is a regular occurrence. The listed there, it shows Epicenter. Epicenter, as I mentioned, is our clearinghouse where information is uploaded from the charters and gives us the ability to refer back to information and gives us the documentation as well as the charter's documentation of oversight materials that might be needed at a later time, and also help us be compliant in our oversight duties. Next slide, thank you. So our end of the school year review. Because of COVID, it has changed a little bit in that our conferences are Zoom meetings rather than in-person meetings, much like how we have to operate on our sites right now with the distance learning and our board meeting right now. What we do is we discuss all the issues that came up during our oversight meeting. We talk about the expectations of student achievement. If there are any fiscal concerns, we also discuss how they might rectify any financial concerns that we may have, academic findings, and also from our perspective as well as from the charters, if there's any assistance that they need from us in order to continue with their operations. Next slide. So in the annual review, which is part of the end of the year review, there are educational programs and academic results that are reviewed. So if during the oversight meeting, it was determined that their certain subgroups was not achieved, one of the things would be to request that an academic improvement plan be initiated. It may be that we determine together as a group how best to service students who have not made growth, to look back at their academic plan, to speak with their director of academics and find out what they're doing to make sure that students do achieve. With CASP results not being available for the last year, the CDE and the School Board of Education has come out with some verifiable assessment data that schools will be able to use in order for us to determine if student growth has happened. It has a number of criteria with the number of students that need to participate, the effects of multiple measures, the transparency of these assessments, longitudinal progress, all of these things that will help for us to determine if the academic results are appropriate. The special ed services are reviewed for Dr. Allison, since we have a director of special education services. One of the things was randomly reviewing files of students, ensuring that IEP deadlines were met, that 504 plans were implemented, that assessment records and identification of students who are eligible for special education services have been fulfilled, that the SELPA has been identified, and that student files contain accurate and pertinent information regarding court documents and plans. With the LCAP, that was replaced with the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. Those were documents that we not only had uploaded to Epicenter for review, but also reviews that we have at the end of the year to make sure that their plan is being implemented. If the plan was not implemented in all areas, how they plan on attaining the growth results that are in their continuity plan. Finances, as mentioned before, the finances are handled in a combination of ways through MOUs in which it's explained exactly what financial debts and other obligations have to be reported to the district, through consultants who assist with our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services to make sure that audits are maintained and turned in a timely manner. We have operations and policies and procedures. So are students and parents' rights documented? Is there staff training? Is there PD available to staff? Are they adhering to geographic restrictions? Are there written policies for independent study and policies regarding attendance? Is there a school calendar? All of these things are looked at in operations. We also have the governance piece that's looked at, governance and management changes. Are they complying with the Brown Act? Is there an availability of minutes from board meetings? Is there a conflict of interest? Are there written descriptions of board officers and roles and bylaws? So is there an organizational chart? So all of these things and more are reviewed in the annual review. Next slide. And in the end is also the ongoing financial monitoring, which is a major part of oversight. The budget cycles that have to be reviewed include P1 and P2 on audited actuals. We are right now in receiving the annual audits from the schools. These audits are independent audits that are reviewed, and that not only are reviewed on our end at the district, but also through consultants to ensure that these audits are appropriate, and that if there's any need for any type of plan to stabilize fiscal concerns, that they are actually reported, and they are that any outstanding debts and financial obligations are determined, and that we are able to get appropriate fiscal reporting from schools. Pat, this is do have any questions for me?
Question? I've got a couple comments. First, I think it's no surprise that the oversight quality that a staff does is directly associated to the board's favorability to charters or not. There are some districts where I think you would find, especially in the past, you'd be told, find us a charter, while there were other ones that would say, I don't want charters in here. So staff can only be so objective when that's the case. I recognize that problem very early. Charters knew after a while. I was going to ask the very same set of questions. Some of them difficult. I think some of them stopped showing up, and some that might have thought about coming in here decided not to. And I think the ones that came through that could answer the questions, whether it was my organizational efficiency stuff, Mike's, are you really delivering this higher end of education that you're really supposed to be there for? And equally, are you reaching that group of students that other people can? And Kelly's expertise in what curriculum really looks like and how it's measured. I think once it got to that, we were all doing our thing. I think that helped a ton. Can we go to slide 2? Yeah, minimum. This is what happens. This is what Ed Code says. I have to have one person. They come by once a year. You look, everybody knows you're coming, so all the smiling kids and everybody sits there and the dog and pony show goes up. But if you look at this, Shay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your view is more along the lines when you go to see these charters, are kids actually learning? Are they there? And are things in place enough for them to learn, which is kind of it's 1 through 3. I don't want you in a position of deciding you need to turn a blind eye to mass educational inefficiency just because you need the money. And I think when you see number 4, I think Mr. Marzo would become involved if things were there. And I think he's routinely involved with a person in his position. And being, again, as I said before, supported by an objective third party who has their own set of accountabilities to their profession to tell us if something's not right. And then I think if you see number 5, I think the superintendent becomes directly involved and the attorneys come in when that happens. So I think we're doing far more than the minimum that's required by law. Let's go to the regular site visits page. Okay, charter self-assessment, FICMAT, Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team. That's a LACO thing. They come in when you declare negative certification or qualified certification. where you can't meet your obligations. So for example, had we just let the budget drift like it was going to after the charter revenue and after the ADA and just pretend that everything is going to be okay, the county comes in and does a FICMAT study. The FICMAT study is meant to analyze and take serious look at assessing a district or a charter that is in serious financial trouble right now. Would that be accurate, Mr. King? Yes. So this is not something that everybody goes through. But yet, the assessment process of the charters uses the FICMAT format that the county uses. So the county doesn't mandate that you use that, and I think this district chose to use that format because it sets up the framework of accountability for the next slide, which is end of school year review. Let's go to the next slide. End of school year review. So if you're subjecting the charters to the FICMAT format throughout the whole year, they know what's coming at the end of the year. You're looking for the worst case scenario stuff right there, just in your routine oversight things. So I'll close with this. There's going to be a ruling tomorrow in the San Diego case, and I think that I can say with great confidence, anybody who wants to know what I think about charters can watch Google. But I want everyone to notice that this district, unlike some other districts that are involved in that case, there were people being called in that are on the staff now or were on the staff just recently, were called in to testify in front of a grand jury. I want you to know that those people were not subject to criminal filings. They were not subject to civil filings. They were not subject to being told that they represented the district poorly and subjected the district to liability, criminal liability. There were virtually no questions about how the district was overseeing charters in the last several years. In fact, some had been revoked, some had been, board members voted no, some of them were convinced by staff don't even show up to the boards. So in terms of the function of how this district was overseeing charters over the past few years, especially since Mr. King arrived, there was no finding in that case that anything came into question except whether or not this district could use some of the funds that were coming in from the charters to be used as a local revenue source and thus benefit our own programs. Our financial audits annually, aside from the charters, do not suggest that anybody's running funny money and burying stuff in hidden accounts and flopping money all over the place. In fact, LACO recognized that the charters were a local revenue source, but yet approved our budget annually. So when this court case closes out tomorrow and someone tells us what this district is going to have to pay, I want everyone to understand that there was no implication that the district did anything improper. And these things are not the result of the court case. These are things that have progressed over the past several years in our routine process. And I really don't see the court case affecting or strengthening the current charter oversight process. Would that be inaccurate?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Again, thank you, everyone, but this is the kind of stuff you all need to know about. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Ms. Patterson, for your presentation. And, you know, I've seen your work before now. Because we didn't get it done last Saturday and we've done it in this venue, more people have seen your work. And it's always very, very professionally done, and I think that comes through. Thank you for your attention to detail and for your work ensuring that the charters that we authorize are doing what they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing to add. Ms. Patterson, thank you so much for coming out at this late hour to give us a presentation and to pick up where you left off a couple weekends ago. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Definitely, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. It was clear and precise. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. I thought it was really important for you to have a chance to share, because you have a big job and you do a lot of things, and there's a lot behind what goes into charter oversight. So I think it's important that our public knows that everything that is that we have to do for charters. So thank you so much.
Thank you all for your support.
Excuse me, I forgot to tell Ms. Patterson she's doing a great job.
Thank you.
That might have been an burden.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go on to 12B, the ratification of air purifiers. Can I get a motion?
So, I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. King.
Okay, so I wanted to point out to the board that, again, he gave you a heads up that we needed to purchase these air purifiers in order to move forward with the LOU and returning students to the classroom as soon as possible. So I appreciate the board's ability to have that foresight to allow for the ratification. It's always our preference to bring in these items ahead of time, but in this particular case, we need to expedite and appreciate Mr. Mercer's work to get us the best grade possible. I think he ended up getting these through Home Depot, if I'm not mistaken, and beating out a competitor. So with that, unless there's any questions from the board.
No questions, but I would just like to make a comment for the people that are watching that this all plays into how they have been done to get the kids back to the classroom. So it's just one more piece of the puzzle that took time to get the pricing together, to get the filters together, and to get all installed into the classroom. So again, it's not just as easy as opening the doors and saying, come on back to class, kids. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that had to click in to this point. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Also shows that Mr. Mirza has to do many things, as we talked about job descriptions, including going out shopping for these things. So thank you, Mr. Mirza, for that. So we'll call this to question. Go ahead.
We should note that it's entirely paid for by special COVID funds.
Yes.
To help school districts do things like this to get things back.
Yes, it does say here that the budget source is COVID-19 funding, so thank you.
Of course, they can't give us the money to educate our kids, but they can give us an air filter. I'm sorry.
Let's call the question.
Fallsgraf, aye.
Mike Fox, aye. Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Bill Jorgensen, aye.
And Kelly Jensen, aye. That is a 5-0 vote for the air purifiers.
Oh, I have a question. If I were an air filter, could I be ratified?
Boy, you're going to open yourself up to some comments there. Just kidding. 12C, E-rate bid approval. Can I get a motion to?
I'll move this in.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Second.
Chad Wadsworth, second.
Thank you. Mr. King.
So this is the universal service for schools and library programs known as E-rate, and it provides discounts for up to 90% to help eligible schools and libraries in the United States obtain affordable telecommunications and technology, internet access, and so on. So we went out for bid. Ultimately, we'll be able to increase our internet bandwidth to 10 gigabytes, which is fabulous across the district. The total cost to implement this is approximately $104,000. Since we participate in E-rate as a district, we're only paying for 20% of that cost. E-rate pays for 80%. So it's a fabulous opportunity, and highly recommend that the board approve this item.
Any questions or comments?
Is this cost neutral or better to what we have now?
Explain it, sorry.
So if I'm spending $100 now, is this $80?
Correct, yes.
Okay. This is one of these Johnson control things where we're taking out loans 27 years from now.
No, it is not.
Okay. I'm good, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, it's budgeted, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Chad, anything?
Nothing.
Mr. Jorgensen, anything?
No, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
I have no comments. Let's call it to question.
Fallsgraf, aye.
Mike Fox, aye. Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0 vote. Thank you. Future agenda items. Does anyone?
I don't have anything. I would make the comment that I appreciate the stuff that's come on the agenda now has been processed very quickly within a week or two. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, with that, we're going to, for the calendar, our spring break is April 5th through the 9th. The board does have things that we need to discuss and vote on. And our next board meeting is not until April 22nd, which is, almost 3 weeks, a month away. So I propose that we have a special board meeting Tuesday, March 30th at 6:30. Does that work?
Will that be noticed to the public? And I would prefer not to have an emergency. We 24 hours ahead of time, that I wouldn't support that.
If the board would like to post this, we can post it tomorrow to ensure.
Will that work for you, Kelly?
That will work. Yolanda, that will work. Yes. We'll post it tomorrow. We're good?
Yep, I will make myself available.
Thank you. We did tell the public that we have had conversations about there's a lot of work to do with everything.
Now, my next day is the birthday, and so we're here. Tim, I expect you to be at this meeting in person, and you'll deliver my birthday gift, which would be nice, and leave me awestruck in person. Thank you. The rest of you just, bring it with you.
We'll sing. Oh, we cannot do that. You're not allowed to sing because of COVID. All right. So with that, we will, nothing to report out of closed session tonight. And so I will, let's make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mike Fox, so moved.
Chad, are you seconding since you're
second.
first?
Chad Wadsworth.
Okay, let's call that to question.
Charles Grab, aye.
Mike Fox, aye. Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. We're going to adjourn at 9:44 p.m.